What we're doing today, I have a feeling won't take too long to actually go through. Now, obviously, y'all have seen the note sheet. The note sheet does have a lot in there of what we're filling out, of the different steps. But it's when we do the actual assignment, when y'all do the actual assignment, y'all are not going to have to fill all of this out. Most of this stuff and most of the questions when we're working through it, especially this first one, is stuff that you'll either be thinking through or processing through. You won't actually write down. You won't be writing all this down. I set it up in this way, and these are some of the old note sheets to make sure that we could see the connection, like with the stuff we were doing yesterday where we saw the connection with H and K and the formulas and how they connected. That's what these are. I did have an exact printup that looked almost exactly like this for those lessons, but I decided not to use it and use the actual what the slides were. So I went with this here mainly because I think I printed them up and then realized they were set up this way, not like the slides. But we'll see once we work through this that there is less in this than what we actually is in this, what we're doing. Because what we're looking at today, well, is finding the equation of the parabola in either vertex form or x-intercept form, given either the vertex and a point or the x-intercepts, P and Q, or it could be an actual intercept points, x1 comma 0 and x2 comma 0 and a point. Because when it crosses the x-axis or is an x-intercept, the value of y is always 0, because that is the x-intercept. We're either going to give two x-intercepts and a point or the vertex and a point, and we want to find the equation. Now, when we look at the first example problem, the vertex is given to us as the point 3, 2, and it passes through the point 13, 8. Well, the first thing is, which one of the two equations are we going to use? Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, or y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. Okay, so this is the formula we're using, but obviously, yeah, we would just go on and plug it in. Well, what are we given? We're given the vertex, so I'm going to use the equation of the parabola that's in vertex form. So you can go on and just circle that equation because that's the one we're using. Now, like I said at the beginning, I mean, if you were actually doing the homework assignment, we wouldn't have this written up in circle. You just go on and write the thing down because that's what we're starting with. Now, part 2, what are the variables that we're using? Well, A, H, and K, because we're not concerned about X or Y, because X or Y is part of the equation. X is where the input values go in, and Y is where the output values come in. So really, if we had the values of A, H, and K, we have the equation and we're done. And like I think we're saying, what is the value of H? You all know? And K is? Because what is the vertex? It is H comma K. So in part 3, A and B, we can just say H equals 3 and K equals 2. I mean, this is most of what we've done already, isn't it? Being able to identify these parts, for the most part, yes? Okay, so we can go on and plug that in, because y is equal to what? A, parentheses, x minus 3 squared plus 2. Because h and k are 3 and 2, and we can plug them in, yes? Do we know what the value of A is? Well, no, because what we dealt with yesterday is we dealt with P, finding the value of P with the vertex or the focus directrix. We used those to find the value of P and plugged it into the 1 over 4P to be able to find that value that goes there. But here we don't have p. We don't have the 1 over 4p, do we? We have what? A, yes? Is there anything we haven't used that they've given us so far? 13.8, yes? So this point is on the parabola. It is a point that's on the graph. So what that's telling me is if I plug 13 in for x, the value of y would be 8, yes? Because that's what a point is, because if we plug the x value in, we will get the y value out. So no matter what the value of a is, if I plug 13 in for x, the value of y will be 8, yes? Well, wait, that means what I can do with this equation in that point is set y as 8, x is 13, and solve for the value of a. Because it's true, no matter what a is, when I plug 13 in for x, the value of y will be 8. Now how many variables do I have left in this equation? Let's solve for it. Well, the first thing we can do in solving is, well, 13 minus 3, which is squared, plus 2. Well, 10 squared is 100. A plus 2. Then we can subtract 2 from both sides, because those would cancel. 8 minus 2 is 1. And last but not least, divide both sides by 100. Both sides. And we get a is equal to. Well, we know 6 is not divisible by 100 evenly, because that just won't work. But we can reduce it, because there is a common factor of 3, or not 3, 2, which would give us 3 over 50, or 0.06. We could take either one of those. Yeah. By the way, we're on the back of the front page. Yeah, because that part there, h equals, yeah. Any questions on how we found the value of a? So in the general form of the equation, besides x and y, the only variables we had were a, h, and k, yes? Do we have all three? Plug them back in. So y would equal, well, we can say 3/50ths times x minus 3 squared plus 2. That's it. We could also use the decimal and say y equals 0.06 parentheses x minus 3 squared plus 2. You just need to pick which one you want to write a in. Do you want to write it as a fraction or as a decimal? The only one that we really try to avoid using is a mixed number, so like 1 1/4. We don't want to use that in an equation, because there's enough information in most of these equations to begin with, let alone having a mixed number. So we'll have it as an improper fraction. Numerator is bigger than the denominator is 1 fraction. Or as a decimal, we don't want 1 1/2. We'll just write it as 3/2 if we want it as a fraction, or we can, instead of writing it as 3/2, we can write it as 1.5. Either one of those works. Questions on this here? And that's it. Simpler than you thought this was going to be? A little bit? Because we can see another one, and I think it'll make sense as we go. Yep, that's Not working right now. Because the note sheets are a little bit more involved than what there actually is going on. Yes. So we look at this here. Example 2, we're given the vertex and a point, yes? So we're going to use which one of the two equations? Squared plus k, because that's the vertex form, the equation in vertex form. So we'll be using it. So we can circle that for part 1. Now part 2 on the notes, well, the variables we're looking for are a, h, and k, because that's the 3 variables that we want. So in part 2. So which 2 do we know for sure? H and k, because they're part of our vertex. So part 3 on those 2 lines, well, we can say h is equal to, and k is equal to 9. And really that brings us to step number 4. And what we can do is we can go on and plug those values in. Y is equal to a, because we don't know what it is, we'll leave it as a. Parentheses, x minus what? Well, negative and negative make a. So it's really x plus 5 squared plus 9. So we just plugged h and k into the formula. Any questions on this here? So what are we still missing? A. But we know at this point here, when we plug negative 7 into x, the y value will have to be negative 15, no matter what a is. So what we can do is we can take that point and plug in negative 15 for y equals a parentheses negative 7 plus 5 squared plus 9. So we plug that point in for x and y. Negative 7 for x, negative 15 for y. And now we solve for the value of a. Now in the first one, we did negative 7 plus 5, or we would do negative 7 plus 5, get that number and square it, yes? Could I type that into a calculator? Yeah, why not? Especially on the ACT. If they have a problem like this that you're solving, I'd just type in parentheses negative 7 plus 5, close parentheses, square, enter. Let it do it. Because we can do it by hand. Because negative 7 plus 5 is, well, negative 2 squared is 4. Will the number that comes out of that set of parentheses squared ever be negative? No, because if we square something, it will be positive. Then what do we do next? We subtract the 9. After we subtract the 9, we'll have that negative 24 is equal to 4a. Exactly, then we would divide by 4 and get that a is equal to negative 6. Well, now we do have a, h, and k. So our equation is y is equal to negative 6, parentheses, x plus 5 squared plus 9. And that's our equation. So we'll look at number 3 here in a minute. But did I really need to write all of that out? Well, no, because we really didn't, especially when y'all are doing the assignments, you don't have to write out the fact that our 3 variables that we're looking for are a, h, and k. we know that's what we're looking for, yes? We don't have to write out the fact that h is equal to -5 and k is equal to 9. Because if we want to, what we could have done is just started off with our equation and plug the values in. Or heck, if you wanted to, I mean, you could really jump all the way to there and solve for the value of a, find a, and plug it back into the equation. Because again, I'm writing this out like this here so that we do get a good understanding of how it all fits together. Once we get that, we don't need the steps for how it fits together. Because once we see that and know how it works, we don't need that step. Questions on this here? Okay, well, apparently the swipe gesture is not working. Looking at this one here, will we use the exact same equation? Because what are we given? We're given the x-intercepts, and we're still given a point, but we're given the x-intercepts. So our equation is y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. So this is the equation we're using for this one because we're not given the vertex, we're given two x-intercepts. So the variables that we're using this time, well, we still have a, but we also have p and q. Because a, p, and q are what we're using this time. Now, can someone tell me what the value of p is? So we're saying -3. Does anybody think p would be something else? -7? Does it really matter what p or q is? No, because what are we doing? P and q, when we plug them in, they're being multiplied together, yes? Can I multiply any two things in any order? Yeah. So I just need to pick the value of q and the value of p. I just need to pick a value for them. Because unlike h and k, p and q, either one works. H and k, it doesn't matter. So we can plug those values in. Y is equal to a parentheses x. So minus p, or minus -3. Well, the negative and negative would make a. So really it'd just be x plus 3 times x plus 7, because the negative and negative gave us a positive. Well, if the values were positive, it would stay negative. Questions on this here so far? Has this changed much from the previous two problems? No, it's just changing where we're plugging the numbers in, but we're still referencing back to the original problem. So again, the value that we still need to solve for is the value of a, yes? I still have a point that this goes through, and we can plug it in. So the value of y is 0.05 equals a parentheses -2 plus 3 times -2 plus 7. Plugged x in. Now here there happen to be two spots where there was an x, so we plugged them in both spots. And the y value is 0.05. Now we just need to solve for the value of a. So we have 0.05 is equal to a, parentheses 1 and 5. Exactly. And, well, 1 times 5 is a. And last but not least, what would we do? Divide both sides by 5. And it works out that 0.05 divided by 5 is 0.01. 0.01. And just like the one before, we're just going to plug A, P, and Q here back into the equation to get our answer. Questions on this here? Like this here so far? I mean, if y'all had the choice to do something else, you probably wouldn't be doing this. I understand that. But out of all the stuff we've been doing, this isn't that bad. Let's look at one more, because I feel like most y'all have got a good handle on this. Let's look at one last one, and we will be done for today. So what are we given? We're given 2 points, yes? Now, neither one of these is told to us to be the vertex. Because if we're given the vertex, it really has to be told to us, because there's no real information given. But there is something interesting about both of these points. The y value is 0 for both. They're x-intercepts. Because if a point or 2 points or multiple points are given, whenever the value of y is 0, it's an x-intercept. It's where it crosses the x-axis. So what they gave us were the 2 x-intercepts, which is really telling me that I have my p and q. That's what p and q are going to be. So the equation we're using is y is equal to a parentheses x minus p times x minus q. And really, this next point I'm going to make is kind of foreshadowing for next chapter, possibly, when we start talking about quadratics. And we start talking about quadratics and solving quadratics. We're going to be wanting to find the values of x that make the function equal 0. So what are we going to be finding? We're going to want to be finding the x-intercepts. Those would be the solutions to a quadratic function, the values of x that make the function 0. So that's what we'll eventually be finding later on. But for this here, well, let's solve it like you would do the homework assignment and not like on the note sheets. Well, what is the value of p and q? Seen in -2, yes? So we'll plug them in for p and q, which will tell me y is equal to a times x, what? Minus -16, which would turn into plus 16. The negative and negative would make a positive. And our next one would be x minus -2, which would be x plus 2. So if you want to fill this in where spot 4 is, or where you have the first big blank, that's fine. Yep. Because I skipped steps 1 through 3 essentially. Because honestly, are y'all going to even do steps 1 through 3 when y'all do the assignment? No, I don't expect you to do steps 1 through 3. Because this is really all that steps 1 through 3 accomplished, yes? And I don't think y'all need steps 1 through 3 to get to this point. Well, any questions on how we got to y equals a times x plus 16 times x plus 2? Well, now we need to find the value of a, yes? And we would do that by plugging in the point, -1872, yes? So 72 would be our y value is equal to a times -18 plus 16 times -18 plus 2. That's probably, I probably just set it down. Yes. Well, just like with the first one, aren't all that just a number? We can type it all in. And exactly, you're right, Trey. It would be -2 and -16? Well, -2 times -16 is? So we got 32. And lastly, we would divide both sides by 32. Well, this is also 2 and 1/4. Questions? Yeah. Yeah, we're doing this one here. We know P and Q are both -16 and -2. So we just plugged them in. I'll scroll up here, I'll scroll back down. So we just went on and plugged them in. Because, especially when y'all do the assignment, I'm not expecting you to do this. Well, we can just jump to the fact that y equals a times x plus 16 times x plus 2, because we can plug it in. Plugged in the point, found a. Now that we have a, well, we can say y equals 9/4 times plus 16 times x plus 2. Or we can say y is equal to 2.25 times x plus 16 times x plus 2. Because either one of those would work. The only one we wouldn't use is the 2 and 1/4. We don't want to use a mixed number when we have it in an equation. Any questions on any of this here? We feel good with this here? If there are no other questions on this here, I'm going to go on and pass out the assignment. 3, 4, 5. So, by the way, guys, this here finishes chapter 2. We are officially finished with chapter 2.
We have a test.
Yes. A week from today. A week from today will be the test. Now, I am not going to be mean, because I could if I wanted to, but I'm not, and said that tomorrow is the makeup day. But I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Monday is the makeup day. Because I know Friday is homecoming, which is a wash of a day anyways. So Monday is the makeup day. Which means, yeah, you're going to be locked up there. Tuesday is the review. We'll go over so Tuesday is the review sheet. We'll go over the review sheet Wednesday. Test on Thursday, which means all the homework is due at the end of the day Thursday. If for some reason something comes up or something happens and you have issues getting it all turned in, talk with me. I will work with you. If you come to me on Friday and ask for extra time or because of XYZ, not going to happen. If you come to me before then, before it's officially due, I will work with you. Come afterwards, not as much. Okay? So you have the rest of the class time to work on this or any other assignment. If you have assignments that are finished, go on and get them turned in.